They want the power.
Yeah.
They want to, and you know what? That kind of comes into our next segment. Really, is power,
Hmm.
right? So this is kind of a a wide encompassing story because there's
Hmm.
multiple facets to this. All right,
Hmm.
big tech censorship, big tech bolstering up certain voices for certain narratives, we'll say, and pushing down others and suppressing others. All right.
Hmm.
Twitter, Facebook, and Netflix moguls have donated 7.5 million to Marxist BLM co-founder who is pushing their net neutrality policy as their tech firm blocks users sharing critical stories about her. Uh, you know about this, right?
Oh,
She bought
100%.
mansions. Four. Four big old mansions for herself. Hmm.
Yeah, and did you also know too
Oh god.
that she threatened to sue a BLM founder in one of the local chapters who called for an investigation into the finances of where the $90 million to BLM went?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I've been following Patrice Cullors because she's, to me, a whole criminal. Okay, she
Yeah.
did not reinvest any of the money that was donated to the Black community, that was not
Yeah.
reinvested into Black education, inner cities, helping your average Black American succeed in life. There was no, we could be funding programs with that 90 million for teaching the Black community about like financial responsibility, or just any of the basic things that any American should be learning.
Right.
Have these
Taxes,
Black focused
self
programs.
accountability.
Exactly. But where did that 90 million go? I don't know. Ask Patrice Cullors, who has $4 million mansions. I don't know. It's a mystery to me.
America
Ugh,
is so oppressive.
it's so hard to live here. It really
This
is.
this what's her name again? Patrice?
Patrice Cullors.
This should just say Patrice Kohler on the forehead because this is basically it. She's she's saying it's so
Ugh.
oppressive. Give me money. I want the money. I'm gonna buy mansions and convince you that you're oppressed while she lives in big, huge mansions.
And you know what, Adam? Again, too, because one of the leftists that I did debate this past weekend, and wealth redistribution and wealth inequality was our topic. And I feel like at a point, because leftists love to cite history and how, under Jim Crow laws, they weren't able to have property, and therefore, generational wealth was not established for them. And I'm like, okay, that's a fair comment to make. But at what point do we finally just sit down and say, okay, we need to take personal responsibility and know that here in America, and I say this every time I come on your show, we all have the same opportunity. If you want to be successful in this country, then you can go start an organization called BLM and, crowdfund $90 million and then, spend it on multi-million-dollar mansions.
Boom.
I don't know.
Boom.
Ugh,
There it
it's,
is.
it's just
And it's
crazy to me.
true. Right? I mean, and it worked. She worked the system. And
And
guess what? All these big huge companies, they were suckers for it. Because what were they
mhm.
doing? They didn't care. They were virtue signaling. Well, look, we gave millions of dollars to that, so we're clearly not racist.
Yeah, and then
Cool.
well, like you were reading too, and the original point of this article, the craziest part about all of this is the fact that big tech is helping manipulate the average American by hiding the reality of where that all that money for BLM went. Patrice,
Mm-hmm.
they're hiding the reality of who she really is, how she actually feels about the Black community via, what she used donations for. And it's so funny too, because she used the defense of her buying her mansions as, well, I have a family that depends on me, and to take care of them. And it's so funny because it's like, no, that's not what Marxism is, bro. If you are
Yeah,
a Marxist, then you need to, stick to your ideologies that you're pushing on all
right.
all of us.
Yeah. You're literally doing the opposite.
I'm like,
You're
that's
using the
capitalism.
capitalist that's
Yeah,
capitalism. You're buying yourself things and taking care of your own.
yeah.
That's not what Marxism is.
I'm like,
He's
I
that's
think you
everyone gets
might.
a piece,
Yeah.
all things. It's like, no, that's not what you're doing. What? It's crazy.
When you accidentally turn into a capitalist, whoops.
Yep, yep,
Oh
exactly. And big tech
gosh.
is just going with it because the money, the control, the power. I mean,
Hmm.
we even have, look at this. This is from the YouTube CEO. Love you, YouTube, but it's easy to make up content and post it from your basement, so we boost authoritative sources. Wait a minute. So doesn't that make them a publisher? Doesn't that mean they're choosing what people see and what people don't see? Huh. But I thought that was that's not what they're supposed to do.
Yeah,
Huh?
I thought they weren't held liable for anything on their platforms because they're not a publisher.
Right.
Hmm,
Exactly.
interesting.
Section 230
Yeah,
protects them
that's so
because,
weird.
hey, look, we're not a publisher. We don't pick and choose what people see. Well, I don't know. It says here, YouTube CEO Susan, I don't know
Wojcicki?
Wojcicki. Sorry, Susan. I don't know how to say your last name. Has acknowledged that the platform's policy of boosting authoritative mainstream media sources and suppressing independent creators in search of got to point at you too because I think we're both in on this
Mm,
completely and utterly, you and me.
mhm, mhm.
In search makes it harder in some cases for channels maybe who are getting started or smaller to be able to be visible when there's a major event or when people are looking at something that is science or news related, but insists
Science, okay.
that the policy is really, really important. Wow. Isn't it called YouTube? YouTube. YouTube. Not anymore. Now it's our tube.
Mhm,
That's
mhm.
what I'm seeing here.
Exactly, and I love this article too because like you just pointed out, this is supposed to be called YouTube, but how is it YouTube when it's we actually get to delegate and regulate what you are
Right.
looking at every single day? We are going to
Mhm.
actually manipulate your own thought process and your own ideologies by only showing you specific things.
Yep.
Mm, I don't know.
Yep. That's a publisher.
Yeah.
That's what a publisher does. They're becoming publishers. They're
Mhm.
becoming propaganda networks, picking
100%.
and choosing what people see and getting rid of people that they don't. Alex Jones, for example. It started with Alex Jones. That should have been a wake-up call a long time ago. Look, I wasn't really paying attention back then. I'll be honest. I didn't even know who Alex Jones was when he got banned. I learned all of this later on through now me being in this world that I'm in, this
Mhm.
YouTube world of knowing who's bigger voices, politicians, actors, whatever, all the big power players and who people listen to. Well, Alex Jones was one of those people. And guess what? He was right a lot. And the more time
Yeah.
goes by, the more he was right. It's nuts. It's rather nuts how often people are like, well, Alex Jones said that was going to happen. Here's literally the clip of him saying it 2 years ago, and now it's happened.
Dude, he was talking about Epstein and his island 10 years ago.
Yep.
And everyone called him a crazy conspiracy theorist. And again, I always love to look to the media and who they are demonizing as
Yeah.
who's telling the truth. Because
Good point.
usually the person that they're trying to slander as a white supremacist Nazi, I'm like, okay, well, what is this person saying that is actually logical here? Because you seem to not like it and you also seem to hate truth. So let me look into this a bit.
Yeah. Oh man, it's I mean, and then look at this. This is another thing that's going on that we're basically seeing. This is from G Prime. Amazing artwork. You guys might recognize it from Tim has a couple of the art pieces around the house. I think it's behind him on the Timcast show. But this is someone stomping someone out, someone help, and what looks like Brian Seltzer, not knowing Stelter?
Stelter.
Stelter?
Brian Seltzer. Yeah, let's
I
call
don't
him
know
that
his I
instead.
don't freaking know his name. I don't think I've said it out loud ever.
Ugh.
Anyway, I think that's who this is because it's a choice between two buttons, hashtag stop Asian hate or hashtag Black Lives Matter. And it's like the powerful truth of this is something the news media is going, I can't see anything. I can't hear it. No, no, no. No, no, no. That's against the narrative. Avoid it at all costs. And this sums it up so perfectly.
And I love that he used a CNN contributor or I guess CNN host because, and I'm sure your audience knows this. I'm sure you covered Project Veritas, how they had the CNN director on tape saying that they will not report on certain things if it does not paint the Black community in a good light.
It's true.
Which is why they will not touch the Asian hate crimes that are happening every single day. And there are stories that are still coming out about it.
Yep.
I have been covering them and I cover them
Nonstop.
on my streams because it is the Black community who is perpetuating the majority of these crimes, but we're not allowed to say that.
Only when it's a white person.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then, see, it's white supremacy. What?
That's why the media was so
How?
confused in regards to the stabbing because they were like, oh no, it's like a black on black girl. Like, how do we spin this into a racial thing? And it's like, okay, we'll blame the police officer.
Well, I mean, is it really even in the news anymore? It's not.
Mm,
No
yeah,
one's talking about it anymore.
yeah.
It's just faded away. And everyone's like, well, what's next? The climate, Joe Biden, blah 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 blah. Blah. Like even Black Lives Matter,
Oh.
they're look at this. They're freaking out because they're saying Biden's first 100 days are up in 10 days. By then, we need him to end 1033, which transfers military equipment into the hands of police across the country, including schools and campus police. Another example, the military you see out in your streets ahead of the Chauvin verdict. Right, because they were worried that people are going to freaking rage after that. And in
Mhm.
fact, they said that they were going to rage.
Yep, and
And
they did in
even
Portland.
and not only that, the freaking jury basically said we were worried that people were going to rage.
Yeah.
What? That's intimidation. So the intimidation worked.
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, it continues. Biden is currently sending more military equipment to our neighborhoods than Trump did. You read that right. Our communities are being terrorized at a greater rate than they had been under Trump.
I love that so much.
Wow.
I love that so much. Congratulations, you played yourself.
You ready? We're going to say I told you so in 3, 2, 1. I told you
Told you
so.
so.
Actually, I didn't tell them, but I mean, are you
Ugh.
surprised? He had the platinum plan. Trump wanted to dump money into the inner city communities to help minorities, specifically the Black community.
Mhm.
He,
Yeah.
he wanted to do it.
I get it. If you want to look at actual fascist policies, who
Yeah.
has truly pushed actual fascism on the American people? It's Joe Biden. It was never Donald Trump. Joe Biden has been advocating for taking away our rights. He's been in office for less than 100 days. We're almost on 100 days here now. And the amount of damage that he's done to this country in regards to our speech, our gun rights, I mean, take your pick, our medical freedom here in this country. Like
Yeah.
he's nonstop out here. And even Black Lives Matter is like, well, maybe we do miss Trump too.
Yep.
Mm.
Because he was about America, man, American freedoms. And it's like when America prospers, the world prospers. That's what
Mhm.
I've noticed. And
Yep.
it's like, if anything, Biden's making us look weak. He's making China strong. And
Did you see him on that Zoom call with all of the international leaders? The only one with a face mask on.
why did he need a face mask? Can we talk about that? Do you guys know that? For example, if you guys don't know about this, there was a world leader summit, all right, where all the world leaders of the top, what was it, like 12, 14 different countries? I don't know
Mhm.
exactly how many. They
There
were
was a
all
lot of them.
over Zoom. It
Yeah.
was a Zoom meeting, and Joe Biden was the only one wearing a mask.
Oh, man.
Do you think it was because it was a pre-recorded, whatever he was supposed to say, it was pre-recorded? That's what they're saying.
No,
That's a conspiracy.
I genuinely think that it's because he himself is so brainwashed and he himself is a puppet. Like people tell him to wear a face mask, he doesn't question it. Okay, they tell him to jump, he says how high. That's what's going on here.
He can't
Jen,
jump. Come on.
true. They tell him to hobble. He asks, "Where am I hobbling to?"
Yeah. Where am I
So
going to hobble?
exactly. And Jen Psaki tried to run cover and say that he was just trying to set an example for how the rest of the world should be living. And it's like, so Jen Psaki, then by that own logic, you think that Americans should be masked up in their homes on Zoom calls?
Right.
Really?
When
That's the
she's not
example you want to
masked
set?
up talking in a room full of people asking her questions.
Yeah.
If he's in a Zoom meeting with, I don't know how many people are in the room, but you can assume it's the people he's around normally, that
And
he
Adam,
doesn't need to wear a mask.
let's talk about the fact too that and I know that everyone in the White House has either been vaccinated or inoculated. My apologies. Or you know what I mean? So it's like there would have been nobody that he was surrounded with that has not been inoculated. So
Right. Well,
why?
then he came out, I think yesterday, he was like, we will totally give you back your freedoms if you do this. And it's like, give us back our freedoms?
Adam,
Bro,
my
do
favorite
you know
thing.
this is America?
Yeah.
Do you know we have our freedoms? Then you don't control our freedoms? You dictator, you fascist. Who's the fascist now? All those crazies making those videos like, we're not, when we have a fascist right now, we could talk about this later after we get the fascist out. It's like, who's a fascist? This dude even said last year, he said only a dictator would rule through executive order. And
Mhm.
hey, how many executive orders did he sign?
On
An
his
insane amount.
on his first day.
First day.
Wasn't even there for like an hour and he was
He
like,
was
boop,
like, boom.
skippity skippity doo 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 doo.
I'm going to rule through executive action. It's like, no, dude, you literally said only dictators do that. So he himself admits he is a dictator.
And Adam, before we move on to this, from this quick point, my favorite thing that Joe Biden keeps saying is that Americans may not be able to celebrate the 4th of July if they don't get inoculated. And I'm like, I'm sorry, do you know what the 4th of July is about? Do you know what the 4th of July represents?
And you know what's funny? I look at my viewers, and we are 10 viewers shy of 1776. We have 1770. If we get 6 more viewers, we're at 1776, 1778. All right. Well, we just hit 1776 viewers right on this conversation.
The patriotism.
I feel the patriot vibes right now.
This stream.
Look, do you guys remember? Do you remember last 4th of July? Remember LA? Blue land.
Fireworks.
The land of the blue.
Everywhere.
I mean, Democratic stronghold, LA. Fireworks everywhere. They were like, no one celebrate. We can't go out. We are in a peak pandemic. Why would this 4th of July be like, we would have to, is it worse? If anything, without trying to talk about it, a lot of people are getting vaccinated. That's great. You know, it's cool. But, you know, you'd think in a few months when July 4th comes, it should be relatively safer because, you know, last year people didn't care. And it was the peak of the pandemic, right? Yeah. Thanks for allowing us our rights, President Joe Biden.
Yeah, isn't that so funny? It's like, we're going to give you your freedoms back. Like, that phrase in itself is contradictory. I'm like, do you know what freedom means, bro?
Right. Yes. Yes.